Oh, please, Anderson interrupted. Don't try to use quantum mechanics to justify. I'm not finished, Professor. Barron continued politely but firmly. You spoke about cognitive development. Let's discuss that. You argue that belief in God indicates lower intelligence. Yet you ignore the extensive research showing that faith often correlates with higher resilience, stronger community bonds, and better mental health outcomes. Anderson's face twitched. This wasn't going according to his plan. Correlation doesn't equal causation? Exactly my point, Professor. Yet you had no problem implying causation when it suited your argument about IQ and religious belief. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the audience. Professor Thompson watched as his colleague's confident smirk began to fade. But let's address your real issue, Barron continued. You're not really angry at God or religion. You're angry at what you perceive as intellectual weakness. So let me ask you this. What's more intellectually honest? Admitting there might be things beyond our current understanding or arrogantly claiming we figured it all out? Anderson's face reddened. That's not... When you mock faith, Barron pressed on, you're not just mocking me or my beliefs. You're mocking the billions of people throughout history who found meaning, purpose, and profound truth in their relationship with God, including, I might add, many of the scientists whose shoulders you stand on. The professor's composure was cracking. He hadn't expected this level of articulation, this calm dismantling of his assumptions. Students who had been smirking earlier were now watching Barron with growing respect. So tell me, Professor, Barron's voice took on an edge of challenge. What's more indicative of stunted cognitive development? Believing in a higher power, or believing that mockery is a substitute for actual intellectual discourse? The room held its breath. Professor Anderson opened his mouth to respond, but for the first time in his career, he found himself completely unprepared for what was coming next. Professor Anderson gripped the podium, his knuckles white. You're twisting things, he sputtered. Science has explained everything that religion once claimed was divine intervention. Has it? Barron's response was measured. Then perhaps you can explain consciousness, Professor? The origin of life itself? Why the universe's physical constants are perfectly tuned for life to exist? Those are just gaps in our current knowledge. Exactly, Barron interjected. Gaps in our knowledge. Yet you're so certain that nothing divine could possibly exist within those gaps. Isn't that itself a form of blind faith? The audience was completely captivated now. Several students who had laughed at Anderson's earlier mockery were nodding along with Barron's points. But let's talk about your real argument, Barron continued. You suggest that faith is a crutch for the intellectually weak, yet here you are, using your academic position as a crutch to bully those who disagree with you. Which one shows more intellectual insecurity, Professor? Anderson's face had turned a deep shade of red. Now, listen here. No, Professor,